Hi, it's February, and for us at Cisco, that means it's time for the next update to the Global Mobile Data Forecast. This is the 6th edition of the forecast, and this year we're focusing on the global mobile trends affecting 2G, 3G, and 4G traffic, the adoption of those technologies, as well as Wi-Fi traffic offload. Once again, there are 4 key mobile networking trends that are driving traffic growth for the forecast period of 2012 to 2017. More connections and devices, more mobile users, faster mobile networking speeds, and more consumption of video. We'll get to all of that in today's presentation.
In this year's forecast, we are looking at mobile data traffic from 2012 to 2017, and we're expecting 13-fold growth over that time period. That's a compound annual growth rate of 66%. Last year, in 2012, the traffic grew 70%. That's a little bit lower than we had seen in previous years due to certain regions, in particular Western Europe, which did have a deceleration of laptop-based mobile data traffic. So that brought down the average a little bit. But there are many regions that are still experiencing very strong growth, such as Asia Pacific, which grew 95% in 2012, compared to Western Europe at 44%. So we're looking still at future strong growth for mobile data traffic. And I'd like to just mention a couple of specific trends. One is related to 4G. So we expect 4G connections have grown rapidly in the past year. They grew 6-fold in 2012 over the year-end 2011 value. And they reached about 60 million connections. And we expect them to number almost about 1 billion connections in 2017. And the amount of traffic that these connections create is really astonishing. So already in 2012, even though 4G connections were less than 1% of mobile connections, they contributed 14% of the total mobile data traffic. And by 2017, though they'll be still at about 10% of connections, they'll contribute almost half of the traffic, 45% of total mobile data traffic. And this is because a 4G connection on average today creates about 19 times more traffic than a non-4G connection. And that gap narrows a little bit in 2017, but still a substantial multiple over non-4G connections. I'd also like to mention offload. So we look at offload from handsets and tablets onto Wi-Fi and other small cell technologies. And we found that last year, a third of global mobile data traffic was offloaded onto the fixed network via small cell. And that grows to 46% in 2017. So high growth in offload, and it's really having an impact. The growth rate of mobile data traffic without offload would be a 71% compound annual growth rate compared to the 66% that we're forecasting. So it is an effective strategy for operators to encourage offload onto small cell. We also look at Wi-Fi in general, coming from Wi-Fi only tablets and laptops, and compare that to mobile. And we found that in 2012, total Wi-Fi traffic was about 20 times higher than mobile data traffic. So Wi-Fi traffic is really just huge. And that gap narrows by 2017 as well, but still Wi-Fi will be 8 times higher than mobile data traffic in 2017.
By 2017, there'll be over 10 billion mobile connections. Those are handsets or individual personal devices, as well as machine-to-machine connections. And that's 10 billion, up from 7 billion in 2012. Now, those devices are growing 3.5 times faster than the world population. In 2012, there were over 4 billion global mobile users of mobile data services. By 2017, we'll add another billion people to the mobile population. There'll be over 5.3 billion mobile data users. Now, those users are going to have a faster network or a more robust network to access their services and content. We anticipate 7-fold growth of average network mobile speeds over the forecast period. In 2012, the average network speed is about 526 kilobits per second. By 2017, that'll grow on average to about 3.9 megabits per second. Now, more powerful devices and more robust networks changes network behaviors. And that network behavior for most of us is multimedia or video consumption. In 2012, over half, or 51% of all mobile data traffic is video-based, and that'll grow to almost 2/3, or 66% of all mobile data traffic being video-based by 2017.
Another dimension to the mobile VNI update that we're providing this year is our IPv6 capable mobile devices forecast. We began this last year due to the increasing industry awareness given the shortage and depletion of IPv4 addressing, but we've now seen the discussion actually move to beyond the scalability features of IPv6 to that of the network management and efficiency benefits that both V6 offers to operators as well as consumers. And we see, relative to the high growth device categories such as smartphones and tablets, an increasing number of potential capable IPv6 devices that could connect to that IPv6 network when it becomes available to them. And by 2017, again, focusing on smartphones and tablets, we see that 73% will be IPv6 capable given their connection speeds as well as device support such as operating system. So a significant potential there that operators are already starting to move forward on in terms of tapping. We've seen announcements from Verizon, from T-Mobile, also from Deutsche Telekom, and even Safaricom in Africa really wanting to create additional opportunities to deploy V6 to this increasing number of users. Another supplemental study that we've included within our mobile VN update is a special look at the FaceTime application and the impact that may have going forward on data consumption. We did a test with an independent consulting firm of different variations of the iPhone 4 and 5, as well as over different combinations of both cellular and Wi-Fi networks. And we saw, in terms of cell-to-cell connections, the average per minute per session data consumption rate was at 3 megabytes, which we can see is fairly substantial if we start to extrapolate perhaps 2 sessions per week, and we have large numbers of iPhone potential users using FaceTime. Really seeing that impact on the network going forward could play a large factor for this application, well, as others like it, in terms of both network planning and management, and also on the end user side, how they're planning their consumption rates to be most efficient within their own data plans.
So we've been looking at the impact of tiered pricing since the institution of data caps and tiered pricing over 3 years ago. So we've been tracking this study from the beginning of 2010. So one of the key findings from looking at 22,000 devices over the last 3 years is that the top 1% of the user base from the beginning of the study, at the beginning of the study, actually consumed over 52% of all traffic per month, versus today, or towards the end of 2012, that top 1% figure is down to 16%. So it's fair to say that the institution of tiered pricing has been effective since its introduction. Having said that, the usage in terms of megabytes per user continues to increase in all tiers, top 1%, top 5%. But having said that, the top 99% is definitely growing at a much faster rate than the top 1%. Now, looking at users from in terms of tiers of gigabytes, if you look at 5 gigabytes per user or 2 gigabytes per user, 200 megabytes per user, last year at the end of 2011, the number of users that consumed more than 5 gigabytes was less than 1%. However, over the 1 year, that number has increased to over 1%. So there is a continued increase in terms of gigabytes per user. And in fact, we looked at the number of users that consume 2 gigabytes over the forecast period up until 2017. And by 2017, 24% of all mobile users will be consuming 2 gigabytes per month, which is about 1.2 billion users. So that's a pretty impressive number.
And also, to understand this better, we looked at the number of tiered versus unlimited plan. I will have to caveat that this study has looked at 2 large Tier 1 service providers, so this portion of the study may be more geared towards those large Tier 1 providers. So the number of unlimited plans fell from 81% from the beginning of the study to 45% today, versus the number of tiered plans have gone up from 4% from the beginning of the study to 45% today. So that should not be a surprising find, given the increase of devices that are on 4G and the number of operators that are leaning towards instituting tiered plans. Having said that, at the beginning of the study, tiered plans consumed per user less than half that of unlimited plans. However, today, that usage in terms of megabytes per user is nearly equal. So with tiered plans, it's about 900 megabytes per user, and with unlimited, it's about 1.3 gigabytes per user. So all this is, in relation to increased usage of applications such as Pandora, Facebook, YouTube, and so on. Video is definitely a huge driver of usage in both tiered as well as unlimited plans.